Hello you sexy beast and welcome back to War Thunder. Today we are not taking a look at one of the new vehicles of patch 1.67, but rather at one of the oldest vehicles in the game. This is the rank 2 P-40E-1, American fighter at battle rating 2.3 in realistic mode. Now, why exactly are we taking a look at this thing? Well, Gaijin has apparently ninja buffed this thing without telling anyone. To give you a little bit of context, this aircraft used to suffer from heavy control stiffening when going up to speed. Anything past 500 600 km per hour, you would completely lock up and crash into the ground, essentially known as a lawn dart. Now, thanks to the Kiwi, who by the way is the same guy who does the mech climbing speed charts that I always use in my videos, link in the description once again, he discovered that this thing has been buffed in multiple ways actually. Not only do the controls not stiffen up nearly the same way that it did before, it can now dive upwards of 700 km per hour, and the engine got a WEP upgrade. The WEP on this engine now produces a massive amount of power, which results in great acceleration and great climb rate. Now let's go over some of the main stats of the aircraft. The aircraft is equipped with 6 Browning M2 machine guns mounted in the wings. Thankfully, and contrary to what is present on, for example, the P-47, which I don't like for exactly this reason, these guns are mounted quite as far apart, and as such, you don't have this random spraying issue when you're not in your perfect conversion zone. Now sadly, this is a very early war plane, and as such the belts you have do not have any access to APIT or even API belts. The best belt you can get is the Stealth belt, which has 2 AP rounds and 1 pure incendiary rounds. As such, you won't really do too many fires with this aircraft, and then you have to try and saw off wings or stuff like that. Now, one fun fact about this aircraft is that it's one of the, if not the aircraft with the most unlockable camo options in the game. The one I'm running in the gameplay is the checker tail shark camouflage, which you can unlock after 250 kills. Including the standard skin, you get a total of 10 camouflages to choose from. And as such, you can make your aircraft very unique. Speaking of aesthetics, I really like the look of this aircraft, and I actually have a bit of a soft spot for this. When I first started out the game, I started out playing the Americans just for this aircraft, because I saw it in a movie. It was Captain Something in the World of Tomorrow. That movie had a P-40, it was kind of a sci-fi movie, okay, but it had a P-40 in it, and I fell in love with the aircraft from first sight. It just looks absolutely amazing, and War Thunder represents it perfectly. Just look at how this aircraft looks, and especially with this camouflage, with the shark mouth, and the way the exhaust flames come off from the side from these huge, massive exhaust nozzles. It's a really nice aircraft. Now, before patch 1.67, this aircraft had many issues. Contrary to most aircraft with battle rating, this thing really felt heavy and unmaneuverable. It had massive problems with the control surfaces. It didn't climb too well, the engine wasn't very strong, it didn't have great acceleration, it didn't even have that particular good speed. The guns were okay, decent. You have 650 calls at this battle rating, which are very effective, especially against lower tier vehicles. But still, you aren't really setting any fires, which can be problematic when you only have boom and zoom tactics available to you. And of course, the controls just stiffened up after any kind of speed, which meant that you couldn't even dive in this aircraft. Couple that with the Allison engine featured in this aircraft being a low altitude engine, not really designed for high altitude operations, and you had yourself an aircraft that wasn't really good at anything because it didn't really have any strengths compared to the aircraft that it would face, especially the Russians, for example. Now, after the patch, however, this has completely changed. And from the few games that I've played since reading the post from Kiwi, I can definitely confirm this thing feels so much better now. With WEP enabled, this thing doubles its fuel consumption. Now, normally, doubling your fuel consumption would be a bad thing. Not so much in the game. Doubling your fuel consumption is actually a good sign that the engine is making a lot of power. That's something you can see, for example, in the Spitfires. Pretty much all the Spitfires, when you use WEP on those, they double their fuel consumption, but they also get a massive boost to engine power. And the same thing what happens with the P-40 now. Now, of course, running 100% only, it isn't still all that great, okay? It's a decent aircraft, but running only at 100% throttle, the engine isn't all that great. But as soon as you click on WEP, holy crap, this thing just goes. Now the ideal climb speed of this aircraft is 210 km per hour indicated airspeed, which you can use to climb above the enemies, but in most cases, and especially at this low tier, the enemy generally doesn't climb too much, so you are fine just climbing to around 3 to 4 kilometers and using boom and zoom tactics. That doesn't mean that you cannot do slight dogfights or turn fights with this thing. Now I wouldn't recommend going into a full-on dogfight against a Russian aircraft, for example, at altitude, but with proper flap control and as long as you maintain your speed, this thing can turn pretty well. One thing I've really found this thing to excel at is the vertical dogfights. For example, I had one fight against an I-16 where using the massive engine power advantage of the web enabled engine, I was able to bleed him out of his energy and pretty much vertical and stall fights him pretty well. And thanks to the flaps, you retain a certain degree of maneuverability. Now, between 4 and 5 km per hour seems to be where the sweet spot for turning for this aircraft is, but you don't really have any problems up to about 600 km per hour. After 600 km per hour, you do lock up a little bit, so do keep an eye out when you are diving straight down onto an enemy that's very low. Approaching 700 km per hour, you get your red lines, and then you might have some troubles pulling out of the dive, but it seems like if you throttle back and if you use the absolutely massive flaps that are under the radiator, not the flaps under the wings, those will break off, but the flaps of the radiator cooling, you will maintain your speed just below the critical level as long as you don't overdo it. So overall, what I'm trying to say is, guys, try out the P-40. It's actually good now. Honestly, it's really fun. Now for those of you who have never flown a P-40 before, well, what tips can I give you? Give a little tip on climbing. Just stay about 3,000 to 4,000 meters. You don't want to go too high because you do lose some engine power. One thing you have to keep in mind is the web, whilst very strong, it will overheat your engine, as such you only have about a 5 to 10 minute window where you can actually use web effectively in combat. After that you should try to go back to base, rearm. Keep in mind that the guns only have 1,600 rounds, which, okay, is decently enough, but will probably not hold you the entire game, especially since you cannot set fires with them. And as such, it's a nice idea to use minimal fuel load and to go back to base and rearm in the middle of the game, just so you can reset the temperature of the engine and use web fully again. Because once you reach that 5 to 10 minute mark in the game, you cannot use the web anymore because the engine just overheats as soon as you touch it. So lads, hopefully you have enjoyed this little video. Hopefully you are going to take another look at the P-40. Tell me actually your experiences in the comments down below if you are flying it right now thanks to this video. And yeah, tell me what you think of it now, especially if you're flying it for the first time, or if you're a veteran who flew it a lot before and just quit flying it because of the awful flight model. Overall, I'm going to enjoy playing some low tier games with this thing. And with that, this has been it for this video. Like this video if you did, subscribe if you're around here, and I'll see you in the next one. My name is MikeGoesBoom, and thank you for watching.
You can lift your head up to the sky, take a deeper breath and give it time. You can walk the path among the lines with your shattered frame of mind. Or instead you could always stay. We can wait right here and play until somehow you can find